black princess.
Okay.
She's 90% in the movie. She's a prank. What is it?
Princess and the Frog was a joke. And honestly, people are not talking about it enough. Princess and the Frog was released in 2009 and it was Disney's first ever black princess. I was 7 years old when Princess and the Frog first came out. I was so hyped to finally see a black princess on screen because literally the only character close enough to my skin complexion was Jasmine and Pocahontas. A lot of people, when they speak critically about this movie and they're also black, they're just like, why are you speaking critically about this? At least you have a black princess. You should be happy. You got this representation. But there's just a lot of stuff in this movie when I'm looking back and rewatching. I'm just like, how did people even let this slide? This movie was very inappropriate in which how they presented Tiana to be a princess. When you think of Disney princess, though they have their struggles, they weren't really struggling with their outside environment and stuff that they cannot change. Snow White, she had to deal with her stepmother. Cinderella had to deal with her family. Belle had to deal with the beasts. And with these older princesses, they were in a time where there was war, there was a lot of social issues going on, but it wasn't really necessarily presented in the movie. It was very inappropriate to position Tiana to be in the time period in which racism exists, how she has to deal with the nice nasty comments, how she has to deal with segregation. But Disney princesses, you're turning off your mind from what's going on in the world and having a good old time watching a show that's going to inspire you. This was not inspiring. It was so close to what black women do on a daily basis. I'm just like, where's the Disney magic? There was no Disney magic. It was just a reality check. I get her being New Orleans, being around black culture. I get that, but they didn't even have to add in the fact that racism exists. There were so many ways that they could have still had the time period without even including these political and social issues. It was just very insensitive to the demographic that they are targeting, which was the black girls, little black boys around the world, or just people who want to finally see a princess who is not white. Very insensitive. She's supposed to be a princess. That's another thing. The previous Disney princesses were princesses. They did not marry a prince in order to be a princess. They were already a princess. Even as Cinderella, she was a part of a family who was very influential. So they were basically quote-unquote royalty already before even meeting a prince. And I just hated how Tiana, she had to be in a position where she was just ordinary. An ordinary girl is living in a world that does not like all the efforts that she put into it. Why did we have to start out the movie in which her family was struggling? Her family was poor. Then we're seeing how Tiana's mom, she has to work underneath a white man in order to provide for her family. And then later on in the movie, her freaking dad died from going to war. Tiana did not get a break during the whole movie. She just didn't have a time to sleep. She was just constantly doing something. Why the first ever black princess had to be shown to be hyper independent? Literally, Disney just fumbled the bag with the first ever black princess. I wouldn't have been so critical on this movie if we had more black princesses. We only have one. Technically, we have 1.5 because Wish, the girl from Wish, she's biracial. I mean, she's Afro-Latina, I believe. But even then, they fumbled Wish too. Another thing I want to say about this movie is that even though this is supposed to be Tiana's movie, it wasn't even freaking Tiana's movie. They were doubting the idea of Charlotte being the actual princess and being the main character. I stated this in my last video about the disposable black girl trope. And I was talking about how if Princess and the Frog wasn't about Tiana being the first black princess, I am pretty sure Charlotte would have been the princess. Honestly, I see people talking about Charlotte more than Tiana. And that's a problem. Because this is Tiana's movie, not Charlotte's movie. Charlotte is supposed to be the best friend. But they've written Charlotte in a way that she took most of the spotlight. It was intentional. I 100% believe that the executives at Disney wasn't going to pass Princess and the Frog unless they had a side character who was white. And this side character was mainly a main character. We would never see Princess and the Frog if they didn't have Charlotte in the movie. And that's a problem because this is supposed to be a black princess movie, not Charlotte's movie. It was intentional. Even freaking Naveen, he was supposed to be with Charlotte. The whole premise in the movie was that he thought he was supposed to be with Charlotte, but he ended up with Tiana, who was his second choice. They presented Tiana to be the second choice for Naveen. And I hated that. Tiana is such a beautiful woman. She deserves everything. But I hated how Disney presented Tiana to be the second choice. In her own movie. Never in the history of Disney princess movies was the Disney princess the second choice. That's why it was so confusing when I first watched this movie. At 7 years old, I was just like, something's not right. How is Tiana fighting for a place to marry the prince in her own movie, y'all? If you rewatch Princess and the Frog and compare it to the other Disney princesses movies, you're just like, why did they create her in this way? And I know they had an agenda, underlying agenda in this movie, and honestly, it was basically Disney's way in saying, here you go, here's your Disney princess movie. We didn't really put that much effort into it, but at least you have something. Now let's move on. That's basically what they were doing. And also, there's a whole bunch of other stuff. Obviously, the main problem people have with this movie is that I would say 85% of the movie, they were freaking frauds. I don't understand what's Disney's obsession with turning black people into animals. I get Naveen turned into a frog because he messed with the voodoo man, but why were they frogs? The story would have been so much better if Tiana was human and she was helping Naveen turn back into human. In the original Princess and the Frog, she didn't turn into a frog. He was a frog. They didn't like the concept that Tiana wasn't a princess. That's why he didn't change into a human. Even from the beginning of the movie, they were basically saying that Tiana's not a princess. You don't see a black girl being a princess? Is that what you're saying, Disney? It was so disappointing. The thing with Disney princesses, they're supposed to be friends with animals, not them being an animal. Okay, so we're gonna go into Naveen.
You're black! You sound black! Where are you from?
So first of all, I just didn't like how when the movie first came out, it wasn't clear what race Naveen was. I didn't know who he was. Only to find out he was Southeast Asian. I don't know. They could have been more clear about that, I would say. Okay, I have my little beef with Naveen. And I just hate how they wrote him. I get what they were trying to go for. I get how he was just a boy in the palace who had things handed to him. I personally hated the scene in which he didn't know how to chop vegetables. I was like, I know you're lying. I know you're lying. How do you not know how to chop vegetables? Throughout the whole movie, Tiana was helping him. Why is Tiana the fairy godmother? She's supposed to be the princess. She's the one who needs help. Why is no one helping her? Anyway, his character design is so good, but I just wish that they really worked on him as a character more. It reminds me of Tangled, how they made Flynn Rider, even though he wasn't even a prince, he helped Rapunzel more than Rapunzel helping him. Why couldn't he have done that in Princess and the Frog? There were so many things in which they could have wrote Naveen to being more of a helper to Tiana than him needing help from Tiana. When I was looking into Princess and the Frog, I'm like, who was actually in the rooms to create this movie? And then I heard that Disney allegedly said that most of the people who created this movie were black. So I'm just like, something's not adding up, because if they were, they would have seen why this wasn't a good idea. Who would make this? This is not a Tyler Perry film. This is a Disney princess film. The black girl should not be struggling throughout the whole film. Oh, this is a big one. I hated how they killed off her dad. I know I mentioned it earlier, but I hated how they killed off their dad, because it's going off this narrative how black families have an absent dad. Even though he died in military war, you could at least have her dad to still be alive or make him sick or something. And also Naveen being broke. Naveen being broke. I think that's the other reason why I didn't like Naveen. He was freaking broke as a prince. Tiana's already struggling with money, and you're trying to put her with someone who's already broke, even though they were saying he would eventually get this money back if he marries a princess. But he is essentially a broke man looking for a princess. Also, going back with Charlotte, her white family, Disney trying to paint them as a white savior, I didn't like that either. With how Tiana had to work for them feeling bad for her, and just constantly trying to put money to her, all of this stuff. Like, Tiana's mom was a mammy. With that, I'm just gonna leave this video there, because I can go on and on about this movie. I hope you guys enjoyed this little session. Please put your opinions down below about what you think about Princess and the Frog, because I would love to hear about them. And I will see you guys in the next video.